What's the difference between being alone and being lonely? Now, I had a great conversation about this yesterday, and I thought I'd share because it opened up some powerful examples which I believe many are experiencing. And ultimately, understanding the difference between them both can make the difference in people's emotional well-being. Now, being alone is a physical state where you're not in the presence of other people. It's just about being by yourself. On the other hand, being lonely is an emotional state where you feel isolated or disconnected from others, regardless of whether you're physically alone or with other people. It's possible to be alone without feeling lonely and to feel lonely when you're with others. It's an interesting topic, isn't it? How feelings of loneliness can occur even in a crowd, and how solitude can sometimes be peaceful and not lonely at all. Have you ever experienced these different states yourself? If you have, are you aware when you were in them? If your answer is no, I'm going to share 4, 5, or 6 different societal constructs which offer clear examples of the difference between being alone and feeling lonely. Starting with lonely in a crowd. So let's say you're a university student and you're in this large campus surrounded by thousands of fellow students. You attend classes and walk through crowded halls but feel invisible and disconnected. You have not formed close friendships and feel somewhat like an outsider, feeling lonely even in the midst of a bustling and vibrant campus life. The next example with this is alone with self. Now let's think of a writer or an artist who spends hours alone in a quiet room crafting a novel or a work of art, lost in their world, yet content and satisfied. They're physically alone, however, feel fulfilled and connected to their work, not lonely at all. The next one is lonely despite online connectivity. Now, this example is one which manipulates many into a meaningless existence. So consider someone who spends hours on social media, constantly connected to friends and acquaintances online. Despite their digital connectivity, they feel lonely because these online interactions lack depth and real emotional connection. They are surrounded by virtual company, but lack meaningful in-person relationships. Moving on to another lonely example. You're someone at a large party, surrounded by people, but feeling disconnected because you can't find common ground or you feel misunderstood. You may not be suffering fearful or negative emotions. You are simply right in the wrong place. You're not alone physically, but you might feel intensely lonely. So my wife is from Brazil and I have a Greek background. So when we go on a holiday to Greece, she's content. However, I assess there could be moments of loneliness because she doesn't know the language and the culture. And the same goes for when I would go to Brazil. Before I learnt and understood the language, I'd be around people, but I'd feel lonely. Moving on, I love escaping into the bush and going for long walks, getting lost. I am content to do it with people and have great conversations, or I'm just as satisfied being alone with no one else around. I am definitely alone, however, never feel lonely. Possibly an example which impacts society the most. Consider elderly people living in a care home. They might be around caregivers and other residents all day, but if they lack meaningful personal connections, they could feel lonely despite not being alone. Lastly, I'm going to share a personal example relating to business owners, CEOs and entrepreneurs where I assess loneliness is often hidden. For me, I'm constantly engaged in meetings and negotiations and networking and all these kind of events. I appear to be in a role filled with excitement, interactions and connections. However, beneath this busy exterior, I would often experience a profound sense of loneliness. This is because my position carries unique pressures and responsibilities, from making critical business decisions to maintaining the confidence of employees and clients. Despite being surrounded by people, often I would feel that I can't share my deepest fears or stresses with my team to avoid undermining morale. Nor could I easily show vulnerability to clients or associates for fear of shaking confidence in the business. What this did was create a disconnect between my internal experiences and external interactions, leading to a sense of isolation, even in this crowd of busyness. Now, it was a loneliness stemming from the perception I must navigate my biggest challenges alone. Now, these examples show how physical presence and emotional connections can differ, leading to feelings of loneliness, even in social settings, or a sense of contentment in solitude. So remember, it's okay to be lonely if you're okay feeling lonely. But if loneliness is seeping from a place of fear, anxiety, resignation, or resentment, I assert that you're not okay. You're in denial. So if someone is feeling lonely, there are several steps they can take to address it. Simple. Number one, reach out to others. This could be friends, family, or even joining new groups or clubs to meet new people. Making an effort to connect or reconnect with others can help reduce feelings of loneliness. Now, don't beat around the bush when you're communicating. Be open and honest. Say things like, I'd like for us to do something together because I'm feeling like I could really use some company at the moment. Number two, engage in activities that bring joy, fun, or fulfillment. This might be things like hobbies, sports, volunteering. Volunteering is amazing. Or learning something new. Doing things that are meaningful can create a sense of connection to others or to the activity itself. If doing something brings you joy and you're doing it with other people who find joy in the same area, naturally it will drive a different, more positive frame of mind. Third, and lastly, there are many more, but I'm just going with three. Seek professional support if needed. Sometimes talking to someone learned in emotional states can help you understand and address feelings of loneliness, especially if they're linked to deeper issues like depression or anxiety. Like I said, this is a fascinating topic, how our connections and surroundings, our environment can impact our emotional state. So, to wrap things up, the line between solitude and loneliness is more about connection than company. While being alone can be a fulfilling choice, loneliness is a sign of emotional disconnect, even in a crowd. So it's crucial to recognize the difference. To combat loneliness, it's not about filling space with people or sending out friends requests or connections on social media platforms. It's about filling life with meaningful connections. So reach out, engage in fun activities, be curious and receptive to what could be possible, and seek help if needed. Each step is more than an action. It's an intention towards self-understanding and genuine connection. Lastly, remember, it's not just about being around people. It's about feeling connected to the world and to yourself, whether in solitude or in company. Seek depth in your connections. That's where the true emotional fulfillment lies. Lastly, to wrap things up in this really, really fast share, take what you will,